Hamar is in Wimbledon. Hamar, what do you think?
Well, I think he's left the institution, left the country. So it really doesn't make any difference, his approach of coming across and saying, look, this is me, this is my story, this is what I've had to do. He's left. He's left the institution, he's left the country. The only reason he's doing it is because he has to sell the books to make money. And
technically he doesn't, of course, because the advance would have been immense. I very much doubt, even if it becomes the best-selling book in history, that it will actually move into royalty territory. The advance is already in the bank.
Agreed, but this is not going to stop here, is it? He needs to make an income going forward. He can't just stop here with his.
Well, he's
media,
got many other plates spinning. Let me just back up a bit because I'm a bit confused by your opening. Let's talk about each other. So if you had enormous issues with people in this country and they had been played out in public and continue to be played out in public, even if you moved to Alpha Centauri, never mind Montecito, even if you died, they would still be writing about the other side of the story, still be portraying you according to their agenda, not your recollections, not your reality. You think if you moved house, suddenly you wouldn't care anymore or it wouldn't matter to you?
Well, it's my family at the end of the day as well. So it's a combination of whether his relationship with his
exactly.
family.
So if you'd been appallingly treated in your own mind by your own family and the whole world was watching, you think that by moving house you'd somehow not care anymore?
But then do you think by voicing it in public...
Just tell me first, because we look it through the lens of our own experiences. If you've been appallingly treated by your own family and the whole world was reading their side of the story, you think that if you moved house and left the family business, you wouldn't be upset anymore. That's because that's what you came on and said. I don't know whether you realise that. But
No. I know. I'm not saying that the upsetness is going to.
You wouldn't want your
eliminated.
side of the story out there. The whole world is reading. The whole world is reading their side of the story.
But do you think that's going to change his being upset?
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. He's written how that works. He's explained why it does help.
How does it help?
Well,
taking revenge on his family, or the truth is out there?
Well, obviously,
his truth.
Obviously,
his truth.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like the royal family can put forward their truth.
Well, yes, they can. Prince Charles did a book with Jonathan Dimbleby. Princess Diana did a book with Andrew Morton. They have press offices which are in daily contact with newspapers. Of course, that's the whole point, is that they have full access to the levers of media coverage, and he has chosen to cut out the middleman. I don't know what you're confused about, to be honest.
No, but can I ask, do you think that his book is fully the whole story? It's his opinion and his perspective. And
whose opinion do you expect him? Whose perspective do you expect him to write about?
No, but you're also saying that the whole of the media is also completely one-sided. And you're saying, there's going to be a middle ground. I mean, you're saying all of the media is one-sided. It's not all one-sided.
Well, the Guardian is pretty objective on this. But if you wanted to do it in terms of influence and readership, then, that's not an opinion, Hamar. That's just counting.
I agree. I'm not saying that the Daily Mail hasn't...
It's not just the Daily Mail, is it? It's the Sun, it's the Daily Express, even the Times, the Sunday Times, the Sunday Express. The Mirror is not sympathetic, I've got to be honest with you. You might think the Mirror, as an essentially left-leaning newspaper, might swim against the tide of the right-wing newspapers, but this transcends politics. This is about deference, and so the Mirror goes the same way. The Telegraph is possibly even more salacious than some of the cheaper print. So again, we're not going to get away from this central point, that because I've heard other people make this argument, and I'm not suggesting for a minute that you've just sort of inhaled it without thinking, but the idea that because he's moved to California and stepped back from formal royal duties, he should somehow not care about getting his side of the story out there, or not care about dealing with his trauma in the public space where he's lived his entire life is, we both know deep down, ridiculous, right?
Do you think it's also fair that he's written about things that have happened in private with his relationship with his sibling and his father?
Yes, again, because things that have happened in private and have been leaked to the newspapers by quotes the other side.
Okay, so it's a tit for tat. So a personal conversation that he's had with his father is now full game for the whole population.
It's his property.
Okay, so then, effectively any private conversation that anyone has in their family can effectively be private property, public property.
Let me put it this way. Let me help you by putting it this way. Any conversation you have with anybody, you are free to talk about whenever you want, yes.
Okay, I think there's a certain element of privacy that should be afforded to your nearest and dearest.
So did
That's
he.
my personal
So did
opinion.
he, which is why when the newspapers were printing lies about him, he asked his family to intervene and help, and they refused.
Yeah, but the family won't. How do we know the family were actually leaking these conversations?
How do we know they weren't?
Yeah, I know, but it's subjective, isn't it?
Whose perspective can Prince Harry provide?
But right now we know objectively this is his words about private conversations. This is him actually divulging private conversations.
So now you understand why he had to do it, and when you came on, you didn't.
I still don't understand, but that's
really.
That's my
so you think a narrative involving him that is being printed on the front pages of every newspaper in the world is something he should just sit by and allow to unfold without actually trying to correct the record or put forward his own perspective? We both know that's not true. You don't believe that.
I don't think he should not put forward his own perspective, but he's also breaching the privacy that some of his family would have expected from him.
Well, he expected a lot from his family, and he didn't get it. Also, it's a bit. I mean, it's a bit. So, what is the line that you think is an appalling and egregious breach of someone else's privacy?
Well, I think stories about his father and his childhood, I think shouldn't have been
What stories? Because you may have been following it more closely than I have.
But stories about his father being bullied. I think that
his father's talked
private.
about that himself at Gordonstoun.
I know, but this is a personal conversation.
I'm going to push you ever so gently on this one. What is the stuff that you think he's revealed that is an appalling breach of somebody else's privacy?
I think the incident with his brother. I think that's private.
The one when his brother attacked him.
Well. Allegedly attacked him.
Okay,
I think
so you don't think victims of assault should go public?
That's shoving a brother that he's admittedly has had physical tussles in the past.
Not as adults.
Isn't.
You don't think an adult victim of domestic assault should go public with the allegation?
No, of course I do think that.
Well, it's all falling apart, really, hey. But the more we talk about it, so what's
not in a book?
Oh, okay, not in a book then.
No,
so he should have gone to the police station instead.
He should have gone to the police station.
There we go. So he shouldn't have written a book. He should have reported Prince William to the police.
I'll ask you a question.
We started off by talking about how we shouldn't have talked about any of this. I've got to go to the news now. I'm 3 minutes late.
During a recent radio segment, James O'Brien took a forceful stance against a caller who suggested that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had unfairly abandoned the United Kingdom after benefiting from public investment in their upbringing. O'Brien, known for his articulate and passionate commentary, methodically dismantled the caller's argument by highlighting the complexities of personal autonomy and the right of individuals to make choices about their own lives, regardless of their royal lineage. He emphasized that critiquing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex for seeking personal happiness and safety outside the restrictive parameters of the British monarchy fundamentally misunderstands the human desire for self-determination and emotional well-being. When a caller dialed in with a superficially patriotic argument about Harry and Meghan's supposed debt to the United Kingdom, James O'Brien swiftly dismantled the flawed logic. The caller's contention that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex had invested in the country and therefore owed some undefined loyalty or financial recompense was met with O'Brien's characteristic razor-sharp reasoning. By systematically breaking down the notion of national investment as some transactional arrangement, O'Brien highlighted the absurdity of suggesting that personal trauma, royal constraints, and individual pursuit of happiness could be reduced to a simple ledger of national contributions. His response underscored the fundamental misunderstanding of personal agency and the right of individuals to make choices about their own lives, regardless of their historical or familial connections to a specific geographical location. With surgical precision, O'Brien expertly dissected the caller's argument, meticulously exposing the underlying entitlement and flawed reasoning that permeated their critique. He methodically challenged the notion that Harry and Meghan owed some perpetual debt to the United Kingdom, highlighting how the caller's perspective revealed a deeply colonial and possessive mindset. By systematically breaking down each point, O'Brien demonstrated the inherent privilege embedded in expecting individuals to remain in a situation that caused them personal distress. effectively revealing the toxic expectation that public figures should sacrifice their mental health and personal autonomy for some perceived national obligation. The intricate dance between the British royal family and taxpayer money represents a delicate and often controversial fiscal relationship that defies simple explanation. While the monarchy receives substantial public funding through the sovereign grant, the financial calculus extends far beyond mere direct payments, encompassing extensive security costs, property maintenance, and systemic privileges that effectively subsidize royal lifestyles through multiple government channels. Taxpayers effectively underwrite an institutionalized economic model where hereditary privilege intersects with public expenditure, creating a complex web of financial dependencies that spark ongoing debate about the legitimacy and transparency of royal financial arrangements. The royals' utilization of public funds isn't just a straightforward monetary transaction, but a nuanced ecosystem of support that reflects centuries of British institutional tradition, where the line between public service and personal benefit remains perpetually blurred. The royal exit. A journey of personal autonomy. In an era where personal choice and individual agency have become paramount, Prince Harry and Meghan's decision to step back from royal duties represents a profound statement of self-determination. Their departure was not merely a whim, but a carefully considered choice to reclaim their narrative and protect their mental and emotional well-being. Despite criticism suggesting they were abandoning their responsibilities or betraying royal traditions, the couple asserted their fundamental right to shape their own life trajectory. By choosing to prioritize their personal happiness and familial peace over institutional expectations, Harry and Meghan demonstrated a remarkable courage to challenge long-standing royal protocols, ultimately highlighting that even within centuries-old institutions, individuals have the power to redefine their roles and pursue paths that align with their personal values and aspirations. The royal disconnect. Deconstructing the myth of royal investment. The notion that the British royal family invests in the United Kingdom is a provocative and fundamentally misguided narrative that deserves rigorous scrutiny. Far from being benevolent investors, the royals represent an inherited privilege system that benefits more from the country's resources than they genuinely contribute. Their relationship with the nation is complex and asymmetrical, rooted in historical entitlement rather than a genuine economic partnership. The royal family exists within a framework of immense taxpayer-funded support, receiving substantial annual grants, maintaining multiple palaces, and enjoying hereditary advantages that most British citizens could never dream of accessing. When critics like the caller suggest that Harry and Meghan have somehow betrayed an investment in the UK by choosing to step back from royal duties, they fundamentally misunderstand the dynamics of power, privilege, and personal agency that underpin the royal institution. The royal media circus, unraveling public perception and criticism. In the unforgiving arena of public discourse, the British royal family has become a perpetual target for media scrutiny and relentless criticism, with Harry and Meghan bearing the brunt of a particularly vicious narrative. The tabloid machinery has consistently constructed elaborate narratives that dissect their every move, transforming personal choices into public spectacles and weaponizing public sentiment against their personal autonomy. Journalists and commentators alike have crafted sensationalized stories that paint their departure from royal duties as a betrayal, rather than understanding it as a complex, deeply personal decision rooted in their individual well-being and desire for genuine personal agency. This media-driven crucible of judgment reflects a broader societal tendency to commodify and consume the lives of public figures, reducing nuanced human experiences to simplistic, divisive soundbites that serve more to entertain than to enlighten, ultimately revealing more about the cynical nature of contemporary media consumption than about the individuals being scrutinized. Royal privilege, a tale of disconnection and entitlement. The chasm between royal privilege and the everyday lived experience could not be more starkly illustrated than in the cushioned world of the British monarchy. while ordinary citizens wrestle with economic uncertainties, rising living costs, and the daily grind of survival. The royals inhabit a rarefied realm of inherited wealth, generational connections, and systemic advantages that remain fundamentally incomprehensible to most. Their inherited status guarantees them access to resources, opportunities, and social networks that the average person could scarcely imagine, a birthright not earned through merit but simply bestowed by the accident of aristocratic lineage. This inherent privilege creates an almost insurmountable barrier of understanding, where the lived realities of privilege become so normalized for them that they struggle to perceive the profound inequalities that surround their gilded existence, rendering their perspective not just disconnected, but fundamentally alien to the struggles of those navigating real-world challenges. The royal dilemma: privacy, choice, and public scrutiny. In the complex landscape of royal life, the fundamental right to personal autonomy cannot be overlooked, even when public figures are concerned. Harry and Meghan's decision to step back from traditional royal duties represents a deeply personal choice, rooted in their desire for genuine independence and protection of their mental well-being. Society must recognize that individuals, regardless of their royal status, deserve the basic human right to make decisions about their own lives, free from relentless public criticism and institutional constraints. Their pursuit of privacy is not a rejection of their heritage, but a courageous assertion of their individual agency, challenging long-standing expectations that have traditionally silenced and constrained members of the royal family. Dismantling royal criticism: O'Brien's compassionate defense of Harry and Meghan. O'Brien methodically deconstructed the caller's narrow perspective, highlighting the profound personal complexities behind the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's decision to step back from royal duties. By emphasizing the deep emotional toll of constant media scrutiny and institutional pressure, he underscored the importance of viewing their choice through a lens of human empathy rather than transactional national sentiment. The radio host's nuanced argument cut through simplistic critiques about UK investment by reminding listeners that individual mental health and personal boundaries transcend financial calculations or public expectations. Ultimately, O'Brien's passionate defense reframed the narrative from a cold, judgmental stance to one of understanding, compassion, and respect for individual well-being, challenging listeners to recognize the deeply human story behind the royal headlines.